Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for EEA's Education Series webinar. Today, we will discuss using Ethereum and Web3 to increase access to legal assistance around the world. Today's call is being recorded and will be available to all attendees and the public on the EEA YouTube channel soon after today's presentation. The Enterprise Ethereum Alliance enables organizations to adopt and use Ethereum technology in their daily business operations. The EEA empowers the Ethereum ecosystem to develop new business opportunities, drive industry adoption, and learn and collaborate with one another. We welcome any and everyone to join and become a part of our global community. At this time, we are pleased to introduce our moderator, Kirsten Albers-Fiedler.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Kirsten Albers-Fiedler, and I am the CLO and COO of Legaler, and also the president of Legaler Aid. And we are also joined by our CEO and co-founder and chairperson of Legaler Aid as well, Stevie Ghiassi.
Thank you, Kirsten, and everyone for joining us. And good morning from Sydney, Australia, wherever you may be. It's nice and early here for 4:30 a.m. So excuse any fumbles on my part. I'm, as Kirsten mentioned, the CEO and co-founder of Legaler, and Legaler is a secure online communications platform for the legal industry. We're venture backed by Thomson Reuters, and I think the pandemic has highlighted the great need for video communications throughout the legal industry, from courts coming to a standstill, from people not being able to kind of access legal clinics. So we're hopefully providing some critical technology to kind of power the legal industry in this remote world. We offer secure video scheduling tools, but a big part of our journey has been actually through our non-for-profit Legaler Aid, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But I'm very excited to talk to you about Web3 and how blockchain is impacting the legal industry. One of the key, I guess, core commodities of the legal industry is contracts, and the other one is trust. Two real critical things that the blockchain is digitizing in this age. And so the legal industry really hasn't been drastically impacted just yet, but it's very much a seismic shift that's going to be occurring. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how that's happening today and what we're doing as a company to try and increase access to justice. So in the legal industry, traditionally has been very slow to adopt technology. So interestingly, a lot of the touch points with blockchain for now are actually coming from clients coming to lawyers. So token sales, licensing agreements around NFTs, different touch points like derivatives and DeFi products. It's more so the clients coming to lawyers and lawyers getting immersed in the legal, in the blockchain world, or becoming familiar with that type of technology through that lens, which is quite unique. But we see that, fundamentally, most parts of the legal industry will actually be driven by blockchain and distributed ledger technology over the next 10 years. And so the early signs that we're seeing right now, there's tokenized litigation funds appearing, and we'll share a little bit about some of the work we're doing in that space. One of the coolest projects I ever saw at my first Ethereum conference over in Brooklyn was Bail Block, where they were actually taking a USB, running a node to mine Monero privately and send it to a wallet that would actually bail people out of jail. So that was a really unique use case and a real good example of computation kind of doing some access to justice. And we're already seeing some exciting projects like Kleros that are actually taking blockchain technology and creating the courts of the future. So courts are becoming an actual service and not so much a physical place. And using blockchain technology and tokens, you can actually create an adjudication system that's completely decentralized and online. So there's some exciting developments. And of course, as I mentioned at the top, the core commodity of a lawyer, a contract, it's changed over the course of history through clay tablets and now kind of paper, and then Word docs and PDFs, but we're slowly moving to computable contracts, and they're going completely online and becoming completely digital. So it's exciting to see the evolution. Obviously, as lawyers, that the world is becoming increasingly entrenched in this kind of Web3 technology. So a natural progression is seeing smart legal contracts, contracts where assets are automatically distributed and transferred based on, basically pure code. So not many people know, but like access to justice is one of the biggest societal issues that we face. So over 5 billion people, so the majority of the world's population actually can't access legal services. And so this is not a problem in, third world countries. In the most developed countries in the world, the UK, Australia, the United States, over 80% of people, when they have a legal issue, can't access the system. So there's a lot that technology can do to make the legal services just efficient in the first place. But what we're going to share with you today is hopefully some new models for, again, using blockchain to actually create a more accessible product for everyone on the planet. So ultimately, everything we do as a charity is ultimately providing someone on the other end a free legal service. So we've got a multitude of products we're working on. And just to give you a quick little bit of background about how we got into this space from, again, a secure video company at the start. In the early days, one of our users on the platform was the Salvation Army. They had a very unique business model, and I got familiar with their founder, and who's now one of our advisors. And essentially, they had the world's first social enterprise law firm, where on one side of that firm, they had a for-profit. That for-profit was not really a partnership model. It was more of a lawyers working for salary and on more interested in impact. And all of that profit went into a non-for-profit arm. And so it was this kind of like cyclical business where the non-for-profit was getting fed money from the for-profit's work. And over time, that became a really successful model. And in 5 to 6 years, over $50 million went towards low-income people. And I was super fascinated that, we had so many people that couldn't get access to justice, yet this model was really working, and only in Australia at the time. And so in parallel to that, had some early conversations with Christoph Jensch, who created the initial DAO on Ethereum, and he shifted his focus to a charity DAO. So it's like, okay, this technology was quite nascent and hadn't really quite worked out well, obviously with the DAO, including the hack and whether it was a security or not, but essentially it was a nice proof point for that type of technology, and he was shifting his focus to charities. So combining those two conversations, my conversations with Christoph and the Salvation Army, we came up with Legal Aid, which again, we're trying to create a public good, something that's an infrastructure built on code that whether I'm still on the planet or Kirsten is, it still runs without us and is actually an infrastructure for the public. So now we'll share some of those initial initiatives with you.
So I forgot to mention just in the beginning that if any of you guys have questions, please just add it in the chat on the bottom of your screen. But this is kind of our first initiative from Legal Aid, and it's a social justice crowdfunding platform called CaseFund. And I'm sure that you guys have kind of heard in the news kind of what has occurred in Canada. And I just kind of had to hear this like crowdfunding in Web2 because it's kind of frightening what actually did occur. I mean, someone put up a campaign on GoFundMe. GoFundMe decided that those funds would not be distributed to the actual people who the campaign said that they would actually be distributed to. And I'm not actually sure what happened to those funds. They said initially that they would just redistribute them to other cases that they would decide. But there was another crowdfunding platform that actually came up called Give, Send, Go. And you can see in the article that a judge kind of froze assets to that donation platform as well. There was a hack that released donors' names. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of a clear signal to show how useful kind of Web3 is and how useful decentralized technologies are really for freedom and to kind of give greater autonomy to individuals and allow them to kind of freely give money and freely act the way that they are able to or should be able to. So this social justice crowdfunding platform is really focused on empowering individuals to crowdfund the cost of their legal representation. So basically what we've done is we've sectioned it off into 2 different categories. So we have causes on the site, and they are basically not-for-profit organizations working towards access to justice. and cases are basically litigants kind of seeking legal representation. So basically what we have kind of focused on is this kind of like proof of justice model. We are pretty transparent about individuals who kind of donate to the campaigns. Like we kind of list them all on the campaign page. And of course, if anybody wants to remain anonymous, they're free to kind of just check a box so they're not listed on there. We accept cryptocurrency donations, and really what this is going to lead to is kind of to utilize the blockchain to kind of really show transparently how donations are kind of provided and who actually ultimately receives those funds. So there's kind of further transparency on where funds are actually going if they're kind of given to a charity. So these kind of headlines kind of describe our kind of most notable case that we have on CaseFund. And they kind of describe what occurred to Paul Rusesabagina. He is the hero who was kind of depicted in the Oscar-nominated film Hotel Rwanda. And in 2020, he was en route to Dubai to kind of give a human rights speech, and he was kidnapped by the Rwandan government, kind of blindfolded, woke up in a jail cell in Rwanda. And obviously these are kind of egregious human rights violations, but his family approached us, and they were kind of seeking assistance, obviously kind of with attorney's fees to kind of support his case to hopefully bring him home. And they weren't able to actually crowdfund on GoFundMe, so we kind of decided to put his case forward on our campaign site. And basically the story about Hotel Rwanda, if you guys aren't familiar, he saved like over 1,000 people from Rwandan genocide, and the film is pretty good. If you guys haven't seen it, I recommend it. But basically, we've been able to raise over $55,000 for his legal fees, and basically we really want to support kind of due process rights and kind of show that that kind of human rights are important, and that's kind of what we've tried to focus the cases on our platform right now. But his case specifically has gained a lot of notoriety, and the impact of kind of having his campaign on the platform and a lot of work that the family has done has kind of it's gotten notoriety, and kind of members of the United States Congress have written a letter to President Paul Kagame, kind of asking for his release. The European Parliament has also passed 3 resolutions kind of condemning Rwanda's actions. The Clooney Foundation for Justice's Trial Watch, the American Bar Association have also kind of come out to say that they are kind of watching his case and kind of monitoring what is occurring in Rwanda with him. And as you can see here, kind of the Clooney Foundation for Justice came out and made a statement saying that the trial was a show trial, obviously, and the due process rights that he should be afforded, he was not. And just about a week ago, the House of Foreign Affairs Committee in the United States passed a bipartisan resolution kind of calling for Paul's release. So that was kind of a positive step forward, and hopefully kind of bringing him home. Stevie, if you want to jump back one slide, I think I missed that one. I just wanted to mention that this is kind of what our campaign page looks like. So basically, like we show kind of the total amount pledged, how many backers have backed a specific case, how many days are left, and we kind of work with specifically all of our campaign pages for cases are kind of focused on working directly with law firms. So we are very transparent to kind of work with individuals who are working on active cases.
It's probably just worth noting that over time, given the attack vectors that some of these other platforms have, like the GoFundMes that you mentioned, we're working to completely decentralize both our charity in terms of legal aid as an organization. Our goal is to kind of move governance and the activities completely on chain, but also these types of products where we've got Web3 integrated and we're kind of accepting cryptocurrency payments. We're slowly moving to a completely, again, it takes some time, but we're moving to a completely decentralized infrastructure where, hopefully the governance helps operate these different products, but also ensures that they can't be, funds can't be seized, and people that own their digital assets are able to kind of transfer those to those in need quite easily.
So, I mean, basically, we've just been really grateful that we've been able to kind of support his legal fees and support kind of the actions that have kind of come forward from governments and obviously like committees to kind of push forward to get him released. And we hope that he can come home soon. So our next kind of initiative that we are working on is a Justice Heroes NFT series. So we kind of, as a charity, do a lot of outreach for donations and grant giving. And we kind of decided to put together an NFT charity auction. And the first one that we put together was an NFT series of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we worked with the comic artist, Jose Delbo. He's really well known for his work with DC and Marvel Comics. And he also, he's penciled like Wonder Woman, Batman, and a bunch of others. He did the artwork for this, and the music was also in the background of it, was also done by Diplo. So we basically did a charity auction. We'd had one of one NFT, and then we did a little bit cheaper ones. I think there were 25 kind of limited edition versions. And they're on, we did it with Maker's Place. So it's just an NFT trading platform that you all can kind of visit and see the different NFTs that we launched, but also basically like really using NFTs as kind of different, as like kind of a tool for different mechanisms, whether that is for just to kind of launch a network, to kind of build a community in a different in an organization, whether that be a DAO or for kind of charity auctions. It's utilizing technology kind of in new ways that kind of weren't accessible or usable before, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's just really cool that we're able to use blockchain technology to then further fund these initiatives that are leveraging the same technology and really highlighting all the different use cases using Ethereum. Thank you, Kirsten. I'll just jump on to the next project we're working on, which is a virtual pro bono law firm. So as mentioned at the top, Legal is providing technology to kind of allow lawyers to deliver their services to clients in a remote fashion. So file sharing, scheduling tools, video, encrypted chat, end-to-end encrypted video, all those types of tools. And really that engine room allows us to create a bunch of different products. So as part of, as I mentioned at the top, the initial inspiration for Legal Aid was the Salvation Army's kind of law firm in Australia doing some amazing work with this, almost like a Tom's Shoes for legal, where you buy a pair of shoes and someone in Africa gets a pair of shoes, where you kind of, pay for legal services in a for-profit sense, and someone less privileged is able to get free legal services. So in the background, what we've done is we've actually created the world's largest pro bono infrastructure, and it is under the Legal Aid brand. And it's really hitting on this opportunity where the legal industry is quite unique, where pro bono work is almost expected. It's actually, it's not, no one's going to jail if they don't do it, but essentially they have some very clear aspirational targets set sometimes by industry bodies, like the American Bar Association in the US has a 50-hour target. Again, most lawyers aspire to that, but it's really self-reported. So there's no real way to track what lawyers are actually doing, even in the major firms. But interestingly, 80% of the market in the legal world is small to solo lawyers. So the bulk by numbers is actually the solos, but obviously revenue is at the bigger end of town. So this $17 billion number is basically just the US market. If we had the lawyers actually hitting their targets, so making it easier to fulfill pro bono work, it would be, there'd be a significant impact in terms of the access to justice number we mentioned at the top, with over 5 billion people not able to access, the rule of law or just simple legal help. So what we're trying to do is actually create this technology layer that really becomes this virtual law firm of the future, but lawyers are volunteering their time. And what we're doing is essentially tracking that impact and creating this, again, end-to-end platform. So you can run a video clinic, you can run, again, an entire law firm. And so we've been very fortunate that this is a newer product that we've been working on for quite some time in this past year. But essentially, we've signed close to 500,000 lawyers to this. So this is going to be one of the biggest legal initiatives that you're going to hear about ever, actually, in terms of we've got global teams from Facebook, American Express, major clearinghouses, major law schools across the world, some government organizations. And so again, this army of lawyers are going to be deployed through this platform. And it's actually of the first place we're using Web3 for some of our SaaS tools. So corporate teams, law firms, again, law schools, clearinghouses, legal aid organizations, they will all have a self-sovereign identity. This is, again, part of the signing in for the platform. It's also the start of their digital identity and their online reputation. So for each case that these lawyers actually perform in the platform, not only are we making it easier to match with the passions and interests, because they have a profile, there's tags, there's this indexing of what they're interested in, they're able to then search this global database of matters and actually find what they're passionate about, which is a real big part of activating lawyers, because a lot of the time they're busy and it's really hard to get their attention, while the cogs are moving in these big law firms. So just by making it easier to kind of, match make and actually connect them with things that they're more passionate about, we're then able to track their impact, and there's a review process, and they end up with basically this tokenized reputation, because they earn somewhat like a frequent flyers. They earn a small amount of cryptocurrency for every case they do, just as a reputational point system. And in this way, we're moving beyond just the self-reporting, and we're creating this on-chain reputational system that gives, similar to NFTs, it can be a little badge and gives you privileges throughout the different ecosystems, both online and offline. This digital ID for a lawyer, right now it's not so important, but in the future, you're going to have your law degree, you're going to have your practicing certificate, your whole entire work history kind of sitting in the digital wallet. So this is kind of the start of that, and it's a fun way, but we're also able to kind of amplify something that's really making an impact. And what happens then as a byproduct, we're able to capture significant data. So within this platform, we can see which areas of law are really getting impacted the hardest, which demographics are really the most in need of more assistance. We can kind of create a real kind of data-driven backdrop to talk to some lobbying efforts, get policymakers involved in kind of increasing access to justice. Unfortunately, most governments today are actually cutting their legal spend, which is quite depressing, to be honest, when the gap and the wealth gap is growing significantly. And then again, we have this systemic issue. If we look at all the countries around the world, again, I mentioned at the top, the 80% number in Australia, the US and UK, Canada. The fact that that number is the same all around the world just means that this product that the legal industry is selling is just inaccessible to most people. And again, we hope that these types of products, the crowdfunding, the pro bono network, they're all able to kind of, on the other side, just give someone access to free legal help where they otherwise would not have been able to kind of, again, just access that service at all. And so something that we're actually sharing with you for the first time today is another project that's in the pipeline. We're actually talking to many well-known people in the cryptocurrency industry at the moment about this project called the JusticeDAO. So everyone's quite aware of DAOs. I think maybe last year was the buzzword was NFTs, and this year the buzzword is DAOs. But it's been something that we've been kind of obviously thinking about for a long time and working towards. As I mentioned, the initial genesis for Legal or eea-eth itself was born out of this, idea of creating this DAO, like this public infrastructure that would outlive us and really, again, reduce that justice gap. And so, it started off as obviously a bit of a social experiment. Obviously, the initial DAO had its flaws, but since then, different parts of the ecosystem in general and the blockchain world have been working on different DAOs. And by nature, when you look at a blockchain, it's essentially a DAO. If you look at maybe Bitcoin, you could say it was the world's first DAO where, there's no CEO, there's no central kind of, authority kind of, using the network. But things like Ethereum that have come and kind of create this kind of, I guess, ungovernance, like social signaling around it, really create this DAO because they provide a service. So you can, on Ethereum, you can actually send, assets, you can receive assets like you would in a bank. There's no bank teller, there's no, security guard at the door, but the security is baked into the code. So these, self-organizing, infrastructures that are kind of cybernetic, they're really, they're the precursor to what we kind of call DAOs now, but they're constantly evolving. And I think governance is something that we're learning a lot about. So Assange DAO this past week was a great example. In a very short space of time, the DAO was able to raise, $53 million and put that to a legal defense fund. So what you're starting to see is people taking, I guess, justice into their own hands in a sense and raising funds in whichever way they can. Ross Albright, obviously, has been a well-known figure in the blockchain industry for some time, and there's been significant efforts over the years to actually raise funds. And just the confluence of NFTs being a real significant way for people to raise money, and the DAO, that combination, they sold some of Ross's artwork and were able to kind of raise close, I think it was $12 million for this similar thing, lobbying and legal fees. And obviously the Constitution DAO, which was talked about across headline news, is really just taking it mainstream. And there's still some flaws around the DAO models that people are kind of working out some kinks. Knowing exactly how much the Constitution DAO raised led to the them being easily outbid in the public auction. But again, this is all a new type of technology. So what we're doing is, again, going back to this significant justice gap, we're creating the world's first social justice DAO that is powered by the community. So this fund is able to raise funds from the public. The public is then able to vote with their token. So again, putting justice back into people's hands. So the token will be a governance token. This fund, you can think of it as some type of public endowment. Essentially, it's a public good. So right now, litigation financing is one of the fastest growing asset classes in the world. It's actually, again, quite out of reach for most people. It's inversely correlated with markets. It's a very exciting investment space, but it's not something that the average person can kind of participate in. So what we're creating, again, is a governance token that allows people to actually be part of the protocol, voicing what issues they care about. So they're able to get behind, cases that have broader societal kind of impact and can actually shape the future for future generations in terms of policy, protecting the environment and making sure we're following sustainable practices. You would have seen class actions and major headlines around cases like Volkswagen committing emissions fraud. So those types of cases have an actual payout, and the funds will be able to be deployed based on the people's will towards these cases. And when those cases have a successful outcome, those funds are able to come back into the DAO and essentially be earning yield the entire time. So this compounding effect of having cryptocurrency in this fund allows it to kind of, again, earn interest all the while sitting kind of, latently in waiting to be deployed. And every case payout that comes thereafter is able to compound this, again, treasury. So over time, we hope that this becomes, a multi-billion-dollar litigation fund that, again, is protecting the will of the people and is a public good. So there's a lot of, I guess, governance that we're exploring. There's some different roles within the DAO itself, but just to kind of give you a high level of how it works. Again, there's an initial treasury, so that's bootstrapped with the initial justice token and funds from the public. That treasury is then basically managed by a treasurer. There's a council, there's a panel of treasurers, and there's three specific roles in this DAO, which I'll kind of run through. But once the public come with a case, they're able to, create a campaign page, have that upvoted. So once there's significant interest from the public, we kind of now know that, the jurors who are litigation firms, business analysts, different types of law firms, they're able to assess these cases and actually rate them and see if they're worth, pursuing, because they need to have a financial outcome. For cases that don't have a financial outcome, we've also done a lot of thinking around how we can support those, and there'll be a grant program, because not every legal case that's important to society has an actual, financial outcome. So we're trying to make sure that this, JusticeDAO can actually support any type of case that's really, again, important to the people. And so from there, the jurors assess the cases, rate those cases, and put it to a vote. And now the public is now responsible for, again, making sure that their voice is heard. They would stake their tokens into the protocol. And from there, they're actually earning or getting slashed based on their voting activity. So we can actually keep them very, again, vocal in this process. Once the particular case is actually voted through and funds are able to be deployed, the USDC funds sitting on Ethereum are then able to be pushed towards the law firm that is litigating that case. Now, again, once there's a successful outcome, those funds come back into the DAO, and around we go again. And so this model, again, hasn't been done of this nature. There's some newer types of litigation financing emerging in the crypto space, but they're focusing on somewhat money-balling betting on a single case. It's quite different, and there's a lot of conjecture around how that's deemed in terms of the actual betting on the outcome. Essentially, with JusticeDAO, that's somewhat happening, but it's, again, done as this kind of real major fund that sits behind the people. And so in the initial stages of our work, we're actually focusing on some of the cryptocurrency industry's lobbying efforts. That's why we're talking to different exchanges, DeFi protocols, and people have a vested interest in the industry. So there's no coordinated effort really around this. There's some great activity occurring from people like Ryan Selkis creating, there's a GMI pack that's kind of now lobbying for efforts in Washington. But again, on a global scale, there's no real concerted effort that's kind of been coordinated to actually stand up for the rights of actually the cryptocurrency industry as well, and help make sure this technology has a long future that's unimpeded and drives innovation. So we're excited to kind of bring this model out into the world, and this is a newer project that we're taking to the market. But again, this becomes part of that suite of tools. And as I mentioned, everything that we do, we kind of look at the other side of the fence and go, okay, so what is the outcome for the client? And again, in this instance, similar to the crowdfunding and the Pro Bono network, someone is the benefactor of receiving free legal services from this DAO, but it's just funded by this public fund that we're really excited to get to the market. All right, Kirsten, do you want to take this one?
So our kind of last initiative in this deck is Blockchain for Justice. So basically what we're trying to do with this initiative, it's kind of an alliance of organizations working to kind of support blockchain projects in the legal industry. So we've kind of put together kind of some partners who are working on various projects like Claros, kind of legal tech projects in using blockchain technology. And really what we're trying to do is kind of support their efforts and kind of raise their profile with other partners who may not actually be in the legal tech blockchain space. So it's kind of an industry organization kind of working to kind of help blockchain technology companies work to kind of build new technologies for the legal industry and just kind of to raise their profile. And we will be launching this shortly, and kind of with all of the partners that we have as well. But kind of as Stevie said, like really the focus of this initiative and the focus of kind of each of the initiatives that we have is really to focus on utilizing blockchain technology, and as well as our kind of pro bono platform, and even with the kind of utilizing reputational tokens to have individuals in need of legal help be able to receive them. and really to kind of further the uses and projects kind of utilizing blockchain technology as well as our own.
Yeah, one of the cool things is that, through these initiatives that are doing good, we're actually holding the hands of some of the world's largest enterprises. Again, Meta is one of our partners. As I mentioned at the top, we got companies like American Express and some of these big four entities that are coming through the pro bono door, and that might be the first taste they have of a self-sovereign identity, of earning a reputational token. They don't have to go to an exchange and kind of get their feet wet in crypto. Someone donating to a campaign can actually interact with Ethereum's kind of public infrastructure. And so for us, that's pretty cool to have this on-ramp that, again, we're bringing use cases that really impact society in a positive way, and also help proliferate this technology and kind of make Web3 more widespread. So if you're in a company that's working in the justice space, or if you're building some technology that you feel is relevant to this space, by all means reach out. We've listed as partners the actual legal technology companies, but also around that we've got different types of partners, from major exchanges coming on board to actual different foundations and L1s. And so, this is something that we're excited to kind of bring to life. We've also got a community called Blockchain for Law. So the website there is blockchainfor.law, and that's the world's largest blockchain lawyer community. And so there's a group there sharing information about regulations and all that type of stuff. So we're really trying to help elevate in all ways, again, the adoption of this kind of tech, and really helping onboard lawyers who have traditionally been slow to adopt technology. But what we find is there's so many really passionate lawyers that are really deep in Web3. Again, everyone's got their own entry point, and sometimes just helping a client. Sometimes, we spoke to a litigator yesterday that just when the courts came to a standstill, he got really heavily involved in DeFi because there wasn't much else to do. But now really, that world opening up, it kind of, things like JusticeDAO emerge and all these different types of conversations. So we're excited about, interacting with all these different people that are really passionate about this space. So Kirsten, I might turn it over to you to field any questions.
I just added that blockchain for law website in the chat, as well as our Twitter handles. And if any of you guys have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So I can read it. Steve, if you want to answer it, I can. So we have a question from Jonathan. He says, are you having problems with camp priority and related issues surrounding non-party funding of litigation?
Is that for CaseFund, or just in terms of, is that a JusticeDAO question?
Oh, for CaseFund. Sorry, he just. Yeah.
You're probably best placed to, I guess, answer that one, Kirsten.
Yeah. So I think we really haven't experienced problems like surrounding kind of like non-party litigation funding. I think basically what we have focused CaseFund on is really kind of providing transparency for people to donate to cases and know that there's an attorney on the other side who is receiving those funds. And basically what we've done is we've put together either there are legal defense funds, and we know that the funds are going to be distributed, and we are kind of transparent about where the funds are going. But we know, and we kind of provide transparency around the parties to the litigation, and make sure that they are we're transparent about who's receiving the fundings and that they are parties to the litigation.
It's probably also worth, Kirsten, it's probably also worth adding that in the initial launch we had whistleblower, one of the again key ex-government kind of personnel that really started a landing pad for whistleblowers from the government. And because they can't accept donations, public officials can't accept gifts from the public. So they weren't able to directly fund some of the cases. And they kind of got into some hot water previously for accepting funds from different platforms. So we actually set up cause pages so their organization could directly benefit. And on the a CaseFund platform, you can actually give directly in crypto to a cause, and then we distribute those funds in its entirety to those different non-for-profits, basically working on access to justice.
Yeah. John, if you have any more questions, please just shoot it in the chat. So we have another question. It says a couple of questions on JusticeDAO. One, is it a delegated approach? How do you address heat of the moment issues that might change the structure members without due process and or enough time to consider the matters at hand? Steve, do you want to take that one?
So the governance is obviously something that's evolving as we go forward, and spending time talking to all the different, we've got advice now from like the person who created litigation financing themselves in terms of an industry. So we're kind of, again, really working through how this will work in a practical sense. And so what we've constructed is basically, I maybe could have elaborated in a bit more detail in the workflow, but there's this council. So the governance is going to be quite fluid, but the council is made up of the 3 different types of actors. So there's guardians. So guardians are actually responsible for operating the DAO, and the speed and the responsiveness obviously comes down to how well this, I guess, group of people can organize, whether it's, part of our platform that we're going to build out to actually collaborate. And then obviously there's the Discords and all the other, other chat and pieces of the governance, creating snapshots, all those types of things. But essentially there's a council which is kind of made up of these guardians who are coders, people involved in operations, accounts, and they get nominated. And so there's transparency around how they get nominated. There's an NFT membership, so their kind of on-chain reputation is always basically tracked, and they can kind of earn different stripes over time. But they're also rewarded and also paid for that work. So there's the treasurers, as we mentioned, they're incentivized, and they kind of earn somewhat of a performance fee for how the actual treasury is run over time. And then there's the actual, what we call jurors. So those jurors, that's where, I guess to answer the question in more detail, that's where the nitty gritty of deploying the capital in terms of assessing cases and really moneyballing, the outcome in terms of creating a way for the member of the public to actually be able to kind of voice the interest in the cause, but without really having to kind of, being able to educate themselves around that cause, obviously as much as they can from public information, from information that DAO provides, but by no means is the DAO itself the judge and the juror. So we're actually confident that starting small and working with some kind of limited partners, we can grow this out and over time really make it more efficient. But it is somewhat of a new frontier. So we're very mindful that we just need to get it going in a practical sense and evolve that governance. But again, it's fluid because the council gets voted in, and the council is also flexible in the sense that everyone's rewarded, and it's all transparent in terms of communication and the voting.
Just kind of adding on to that, he also said the Padawan DAO ran into issues with the management of the treasury. They had some aggressive yield farming that ended up upside down with the recent drop in crypto. How will the DAO asset management address safe funding, like safe investment principles?
Yeah, and that's again similarly, we hope to employ some best practices around that. The main funds sitting in the DAO will be in a stable coin, and then that DAO can essentially, again, based on what the treasurers put forward and people vote in, they will be able to basically do anything they believe is in the best interests of the actual DAO's treasury. It could be investing in like for like tokens, doing token swaps. It could be investing in NFTs. Essentially, their goal is to optimize the yield there, and there's certain, I guess, caution in terms of the risk profile of the assets that they'll be looking to kind of invest. So I mean, at a minimum, there's products out there like Anchor Protocol that are insured and kind of tap out at 20%, but drop down to, I think, a stable 17%, which is obviously significant. But the real goal of the initiative is really obviously to invest in cases that can benefit society and also the Treasury. So yeah, so there's a bit of again, experimentation there, but obviously, like anything else, there's a lot of diligence required, and this is why we have these particular roles, and we're going to look to some of these DeFi leaders to actually be involved in the early days as well.
And I can also add on and just say that in terms of kind of the structure of the councils, like we don't want just someone saying, oh, I'm gonna decide to take all of this money and then just put it in some other thing, and then have it be nothing related to litigation financing or funding of any case. So basically, or just kind of to take the funds for maybe their private interest or something. So basically what we have kind of decided is that the council members will be able to be voted in and out by everyone in the DAO. So it's kind of, they're responsible in different council positions for their specific roles, but it's also kind of a very broad and decentralized organization. So there isn't kind of one actor just kind of changing the scope or mission of kind of where the organization is going and what we're doing.
And obviously there's the foreign performance incentives as well, directly tied to their their actions. Yeah.
Yeah, if there's anything else, please add it to the chat. If anything else came up. So the next question says SEC issues or structures to follow. I can start on this. I think really, I mean, in the crypto industry and really no matter what you do, I feel like the SEC and securities issues always kind of pop up, but it's really a facts and circumstances analysis. So really saying something that is a security or isn't a security is really something that we have focused on, and really for JusticeDAO, we're providing a governance token, and really the token is for individuals to come in and kind of decide where the flow of funds are going and to which cases they want those funds to go. So it's kind of, it's very decentralized and broad, but we want to utilize the blockchain tokens to kind of permit more individuals to kind of have a say and to kind of broaden the scope and kind of reach of litigation financing, because I think litigation funding right now, not a lot of people have a say in kind of where funds go, and we're excited to kind of increase the reach and scope of that and have a broad audience be able to really directly participate in that. Stevie, do you want to add anything on there?
I think you hit it on the head.
Okay. The next one is you can bolt on a KYC container if desired. Stevie, do you want to take that one?
Sorry, is that was that a question or a comment?
Probably a question, I'm gonna say. So I guess oh, it's a comment. Oh, never mind. Yes, absolutely. Joe, thank you for that. So the next question is your DAO an LLC? So I can start this, and Steve, if you want to jump on too. So basically, we are kind of working on different structures, but we're working kind of our plan is to kind of make it a foundation in terms of kind of the structure of the DAO. Just because kind of we've thought about kind of doing an LLC and having it be kind of a member managed LLC and have individuals kind of come in and sign an operating agreement. But I think kind of the plan currently is to do a foundation, but TBD on the exact specifics. But that's our plan currently.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of work being done. There's platforms like syndicate.io that now have these 99 member LLCs that make it easier to kind of create a DAO. They're creating infrastructure and the legals and some of the multi-sig wallet infrastructure and all that stuff, like the Gnosis Safe, to do that stuff. But our goal for this is really to democratize this whole space, and so the most broadly appealing and I guess global, a truly decentralized way to do that is to have a real, utility governance token that is accessible to anyone. And again, within the actual confines, I guess, of the operations of the DAO, people that work their way into these different roles will have a unique, NFT that is based on their role, and they're rewarded for different activities, and again, it keeps track of their kind of on-chain behavior. So yeah, so in terms of the structure, we've given a lot of thought and working with kind of different law firms from around the world, actually, both on the actual structure of how the DAO operates, but also the legal thought process.
Great. So the next question is just what is the best way to follow our work? So I just added our Twitter handles in there, and you can, I mean, we're always tweeting about what we're doing, but the Twitter handles for Legaler and Legaler-eth are also in our profiles. So any of those, if you guys want to follow, you can find more information about what we're doing. I can also, I'll put in our emails on here if you guys also want to reach out. We're happy to chat, or you can also find us on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, so I think I ran
a little bit more time, so we've got about 9 minutes if there's any more questions.
Yeah, if there's any other, I think I went through all of the other questions on the chat. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions remaining, happy to answer. Just wait a second. Otherwise, we can give you guys back 9 minutes. I'm surprised we got through everything so quickly. It's good. I'm glad we were able to. So I don't see, let me see. Oh, wait. Oh, I found there are a few more questions. Oh, perfect. Okay. So legally, what is your call on DAOs, NFTs, social tokens, etc., in regard to the SEC? I mean, I can start with this. Stevie, do you want to jump in, or you want me? I can do it.
That's good.
I'm the attorney. So basically, I mean, from my perspective, honestly, I mean, I worked at the SEC as well in their enforcement division when I was in law school, and the way, like, my perspective really is using laws and that were really put into place like years and years and years ago doesn't really work when you're talking about new technologies. I mean, especially considering blockchain technology. When you look at the securities laws, I mean, obviously the Howey test has kind of come up as kind of the main structure for kind of deciding whether tokens are securities, and kind of what the SEC has kind of put forth in their statements and enforcement actions. But basically, from my perspective, I think obviously it is a facts and circumstances analysis if you kind of take the Howey test, but I don't believe that a lot of NFTs, social tokens, I guess utility tokens specifically, governance tokens, they're from my perspective are not securities. I mean, I should put a banner and say this is not legal advice in any sense. Please don't take what I'm saying as legal advice. But honestly, their blockchain technology is so new and early, and really taking existing laws and applying it to blockchains and trying to kind of mold the blockchains, tokens, everything into that regulatory regime really doesn't work, because it really kind of takes out a lot of participants from being able to access tokens. Like, so for example, if an NFT, and that's kind of just like a digital representation of art, would be a security, people who aren't accredited wouldn't be able to purchase them, they wouldn't be able to sell them. So there are like vast implications that would really restrict the use, the audience who can buy it, who can really, who can make them I think the same actually goes for DAOs, and DAOs specifically have been an avenue of using blockchain technology to really increase kind of interest in blockchain technology, and having kind of communities come together around specific causes that they're interested in. And we saw that with kind of the Ross Ulbricht DAO, the Assange DAO, and even Constitution DAO, even though that didn't work out exactly as they planned. But I think just in general, from my perspective, I'll just say I don't think that they are securities from that perspective. And you shouldn't really take existing laws and apply that to this new kind of nascent technology.
And one of the other things I'll just add that's obviously fascinating to watch is that, given that we've created this, programmable asset, these assets change lives and change, the nature. If something can start off sometimes as a utility token, which then has some type of governance rights, and then those governance rights might pertain to a yield or some type of dividend or whatever it is, and that's kind of, again, something interesting to explore for I think from the legal world, but also just for people designing these things, is that they're very malleable, but they're also a new beast. And I think that's why it's very hard to kind of pigeonhole these things, because sometimes they might be a security upon the sale. Sometimes these protocols are sufficiently decentralized, and the nature of that asset again changes. So so it's very hard to, it's like a moving target, and it's something that's obviously fascinating to see with the evolution of DAOs, and how these DAOs are kind of where they're popping up, how they're popping up. There's platforms, there's different jurisdictions, there's different legal frameworks from foundations to LLCs. So, it's exciting to see this, boom of DAOs. I think that, are really going to shake up society. There's going to be, these shared wallets that people are kind of governing are going to be buying up all types of crazy assets. And I think it's going to create a real ripple effect over the next 2 years in terms of just people getting involved, whether it's sports teams, a JusticeDAO. There's going to be some real kind of, I think, some eye-opening movements. Probably time for one more question, I think.
We have 3 minutes left. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'll just check the chat to make sure we got everything. I think that is everything. So thank you all for joining. We're really grateful to be able to share a bit about, they raise their hand. I can do, trying to see if I can allow talk. If you have a question, if you could type it in. Let me see. Not sure if I can allow her.
Do you see the question, Kirsten?
No, I don't. Let me see.
I think it's, will you be setting up?
Oh, I see it. I see it. Yes. Oh, I apologize. So the question is, will you guys be creating DAOs for others? Oh, great. Steve, do you want to take that one? You can.
Yeah, probably not initially. I mean, there's a lot of great projects doing that. I mean, even for us, there's some technical decisions now we're looking at in terms of what existing, the great part about Web3 is obviously the composable nature of and being able to stand on the shoulders of giants in terms of foundational tech, whether it's open source or just kind of, building blocks. So there's a lot of tech that exists out there that if you want to create a DAO right now, that you can just do it with a Gnosis safe and some basic platforms like Snapshot for your governance and a Discord. You could probably just roll something out just with that quite easily. But we are, because of the nature of having a campaign page, being able to create the history of how that's been upvoted and then escalating that to kind of get voted on by the public and all that stuff. So we'll have a proprietary platform that will be essentially a front end wrapper for all the Web3 activity in the background. That's so there's no attack surface on the actual DAO. But generally, there might be a time where that infrastructure might be usable by others, but it's not really our focus. We've obviously got a lot of projects we're working on in these different initiatives, so we're trying to stay focused and leverage existing tech where we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now we're kind of focusing on utilizing DAOs and using that structure rather than providing the tech for other organizations. She also mentioned safes are another whole conflict. No need to comment. Yeah. Safes are they're an interesting tool, but obviously a whole nother discussion on securities laws and deciding when and if it's no longer a security. But thank you so much for your question. I apologize I missed your other one beforehand, but thank you to all of you guys who joined. We're really grateful to be able to share a little bit about what we're doing. And if you guys have any questions or you want to follow us, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right. Thank you, Kirsten and Stevie, for joining us today. And thanks for putting your contact information in the chat for all attendees to follow your work. For additional information about joining the EEA, please reach out to membership@eea-eth-alliance.org or visit our website that's been pasted in the chat for you. You can also follow the EEA on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you, and this concludes today's EEA Education Series webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.